Welcome back to the garage. Today we've got the Book of Knowledge, the old Haynes manual. I was just looking at the under the frame section for putting the footrest back on again. We've got the torque setting for the bolts at 70 Newton meters, and I remembered to bring the torque wrench up. Plus also, you might remember in the last video I discovered this little lug here, which I thought was for putting a breather pipe through. It's not. It's a wee bracket to go onto the lug beside it, just so that the footrest doesn't revolve. So I think we should be able to manage. I'll get these bolts, a bit of lock and seal onto them, and get them copper slipped. I also remembered to bring the copper slip up. Right, let's get down to it. Right, we'll get a bit of copper slip onto the bolt just to stop it from seizing up in the hole again. That's that. There's the wee bracket there that locates onto that lug and holds it in place. So that goes like that. That goes through and screws into that. Leave that a bit slack for the meantime. And the big bolt. And go through the frame, into the end, through the engine and out the far side. Let's see if I can get my hand in without having to grunt. Yeah, shouldn't be too bad. In fact, I'll put a wee name of lock and seal just into the just to hold it in place. $17mm spanner. Okay. The correct torque setting for the footrest bracket is 70 Newton meters. So, not sure what you can see there, but I'm going to wind it up to 70. There we go. Tighten that up. This should click when it's at the right torque. It's the same as the one on the other side. Right. That's it, 70 Newton meters. It's not over tightened and it won't come slack. I do like a good torque wrench. Whenever you're finished with a torque wrench, you should always unwind it back to zero, because it keeps the tension off the spring and ensures that the torque setting is correct. Filter hasn't arrived yet, but we'll pull this filter housing off here. Take a look, see. Unfortunately, after 31 years, the front of the engine is a bit of a shambles. It's not that pretty, but whatever. Okay. I'll try and give it a bit of a scrub, but I'm not going to bust myself up about it. It's the front of the engine and that's it. As long as the inside of it's good and clean, that's the main thing. There's the wee rubber ring and the filter inside the housing. I'll set this to the side. Yeah, it looks good in there. What I'm going to do actually is I'm going to refit the sump pump, because it's been draining now for 2 days, and draining for 2 days is more than ample. think I can safely push the drain tray out of the road. One drip on the floor won't make an awful amount of difference. There's the wee bung, and I can't help myself. I always put a wee smear of sealant on. It's just what I do. And a fresh washer. And having referred to the manual, the torque setting for the sump bung is 43 Newton meters. There you have it, 43.5 Newton meters. I thought I'd take the side stand off because I had the spring off it and it's cleaned up and lacquered, so I thought I'd take this here off, give it a wee touch. There we go. A nice shouldered bolt and a nylock nut. Right, we'll get this cleaned up and see what it looks like. Well, I was pleased to arrive home today to find the postman had left me a package. Brake pads. Remember I was saying in the last video that the front pads were the same as the rear? Well, there's the proof. 3 sets of pads, 2 for the front, 1 for the back. These are the old ones that come out of the back caliper. They're actually, you know, they're serviceable. And of course, me being me, I will keep these. They're perfectly fine. They'll help me out of a situation, I'm sure, at some stage in the future. The front ones were slightly less so. I don't know if you can see that there, but the pad material had started to separate from the metal backing, and that's not good. It caused a spongy brake for a start, if nothing else. So there's 4 old front pads for the bin, 2 for me to save somewhere for a rainy day, as they say, and we'll get into these ones here shortly. Right, the first thing we've got to do is to remount the caliper onto the fork leg. So I like to use a drop of lock and seal, so the bolts, once you've torqued them up, there's no chance of them coming slack again. It's always good to use this whenever you're working at brakes. So just a wee drop in there on the threads and there. That's more than enough. Let's get that in. A couple of bolts. I'll just nip this up with a ratchet. And then the torque wrench, my friend. The torque setting for these is 35 Newton meters. No point in going twice. I generally like to put a wee bit of copper slip, which is a copper grease, obviously not on the face of the pads but on the edge of the pads, so that the pads have to remain free in the caliper. So I just put a wee line down there and there, so whenever the pad goes in, put this back one in first of all. That's that one. It's an anti-seize compound, and with all the dirt and wet that obviously the brakes will get whenever you're riding, this is just a little measure to stop you having trouble in the future. I've also cleaned up the pins and the wee R clips to clip out. This pin goes through the caliper, through the pad on the far side, back out through the caliper on the far side, and we'll put the clip in through the hole. These are anti-rattle shims, and they also act to hold the pins in place, well, stop them from rattling about. Stick that at the bottom. These hold a bit of tension on the pins. This is a plastic cover. That's what it looks like. Nice and clean and neat. I'll just put this cover on. And just it's a squeeze fit in like that. That's it. We shall now move round and do the other side. Right, well, we'll just slip the brake hose back into its wee clip here. There's a rubber around that to save it from getting damaged. There you go. Right, that's the other side. The caliper's on. Brake pads fitted. Right, now that we're here, I'm going to change the brake fluid. And I've discovered that the mirror, the end of the mirror is covered in the screw for the brake fluid, so I'll have to get that moved. I'll try slackening this one. That's alright. Let's move this mirror. There's a securing nut there. Slacken that off, should be able to swing the mirror around. Should be able to swing the mirror. Yeah, there we go. I can get at that now. Good. I wonder what that brake fluid's like in there. It's probably been there for quite a few years. Quite full as well, because of the pistons pushed right back, you see, in the calipers. You need to be very careful not to let this drip over your paintwork. Okay, the first thing I want to do is get all the old fluid out of the reservoir. And I'm going to be using this. It's a Mighty Vac pump. That's a vacuum pump basically. Watch. I place my pipe in here and start sucking. Thank goodness. Removes all the fluid, which then is in here. Yet again, watch out for drips. There we go. Right, I'm going to use a drop of brake cleaner very carefully in here. I just want to get some brake cleaner into the reservoir to get it cleaned out. There's a wee bit of dirt lying in the corner here because obviously it's the lowest point of the reservoir. I'll give that a bit of a whammel round. With a clean cloth, remove the last. And then I'll pour in some fresh brake fluid. I'll not fill it right up. I'll just leave it there like that. And then carefully again, because sometimes whenever you pump the brake pedal there's a wee spurt comes up. We'll just do this very slowly. We have to pump the brake lever to get the pads to move in to the disc. That's them moving now, and the brake fluid level is going down. Right, that's the brakes back to normal. I'm going to bleed the brakes now, so I'll top this up slightly. And we'll go down below for bleeding. Right, I've topped up the brake fluid right up to the top, and working on a principle of gravity only, I have a pipe on here, and the fluid is draining down through and into the tray, so I don't need to pump it or vacuum it or whatever. I'll just let that, I'll do a gravity feed. I'll keep an eye on the level up above so don't introduce air into the system.